Smallmouth bass are perhaps the strongest pound-for-pound fighting fish in existence. They are most active in water cooler than what's preferred by largemouth bass, and they spawn in water between the upper 50s and low 60s. They prefer rock bottom, low light conditions, and stable weather, and they react to weather and sunlight changes similarly to how largemouth bass react. They regularly eat crawfish, baitfish, and aquatic insects like hellgrammites, but they also may occasionally feed on terrestrial animals such as frogs, worms, and mice. In natural lakes, rocky or gravel points, rocky shorelines, and weed lines attract smallmouth bass. In man-made lakes, rocky shorelines and creek arms, rocky points near a drop-off, and submerged roadbeds attract smallmouth bass. Cool, rocky streams and rivers are preferred by smallmouth bass, too. In smaller water, they frequent current breaks and eddies below man-made structure, down trees or boulders, and occasionally they feed in moderate current. In big rivers, wing dams, deep zones between the channel and backwater, and riprap banks attract smallmouth bass. Many presentations for smallmouth bass mimic their favorite foods, crawfish and baitfish. Crankbaits such as rebel crawfish, tube jigs, and soft plastics with claws all prompt feeding bites from smallmouth bass, thinking the lures are crawfish. The crankbaits are burned through runs, the tube jigs are dragged, drifted, or jigged, and soft plastics are bumped along head first. Paddle-tail jigs, curly-tail jigs, and bucktail jigs, inline spinners and spinner baits, lipless crankbaits, and minnow plugs all provoke feeding bites from smallmouth bass thinking the lures are baitfish. Various jigs are steady retrieved, jigged, or some combination thereof, and the lipless crankbaits and minnow plugs are burned along. Odd jigs, soft plastics, and senkos can resemble aquatic insects when drifted along. Smallmouth bass are aggressive in spring and fall, but during summer they can become ornery to the point where drifting live bait is the best option. Softshell or molten crayfish, hellgrammites, and mad toms are what I found to be the best 3 live baits in rivers. They can be presented under a float, on a free line, or with some split shot up the line, with all 3 rigs presenting a different form of drift. Of course, reaction strikes can be gathered from smallmouth bass in spring, summer, and especially early fall. Crawlers such as jitterbugs, stick baits such as Zara spooks, and chuggers all work in the right conditions, but I do best by far with buzzbaits in red, black, purple, and turquoise, as well as tiny prop baits such as the head and tiny torpedo. As with all topwater fishing, one must feel the weight of the fish before setting the hook to be successful. Fly fishing is a fun and effective way to fish for smallmouth bass. Bass bugs, crawfish flies, leech flies, nymphs, dry flies, streamers, and other flies closely resemble and complete palette of smallmouth bass foods, and the option for a slow retrieve makes fly fishing the most effective than any other presentation in cold waters of late fall.